Bobby, thanks for talking with me today. Let's jump right in and talk about why did you choose to move to Portugal?
That's an easy one. And the reason that started us on this path, honestly, is you and Josh. It was
You
during
weren't thinking, but
COVID.
you weren't thinking about Portugal at all, or you were
No,
thinking,
not
oh,
at
okay.
all. We were locked up in COVID. Mark said, I'm on the exercise machine. You got to watch these videos. So that's where it started. We were doing our research. And then finally, we've been to Europe. But 2 years ago was our first time actually coming to Portugal.
Okay.
And we chose Porto.
Okay. We'll get to why you chose Porto in a second.
Okay.
So you were thinking about retiring and like a place to move, or like why did you decide to go to Portugal rather than another place, maybe in Latin America or the US?
Sure, it was a new chapter for us, but we've talked about it for almost 10 years. Where do we go after San Diego? That's where we're from. My immediate family was gone. I still love my cousins. And so I didn't have that attachment, but we could never come up with a place in the US that we were drawn to go.
Okay.
And so it was really those experiences watching the videos and researching Portugal that said, gee, it's the weather. That was the beginning of it. It's a very safe country. That was another piece of it. And so we said, let's go check it out and really feel what it's like in the city.
Okay, so you came on a scouting trip to see if you really wanted to move to
Yes.
Portugal, and you scouted out Porto and some other places as well?
We did Porto and Lisbon,
Okay.
and we just liked Porto because of the size.
Mhm.
It's a very walkable city. It doesn't have quite the hills that Lisbon does. Um, and even though there was an older aspect to the city and an underdeveloped part, which actually I liked that part, my partner Mark just fell in love, and we both fell in love. Uh, Honestly, we say we love the city, and we say this a lot, but we love the people even more. And I can go on about that at some point, but the people really drew us here. They're
Okay.
just so warm and welcoming and wonderful consistently.
And how long, when you came on this scouting trip, how long did you spend in Porto?
So the first trip, it was 2 weeks here and 2 weeks in Lisbon, and that was 2 years ago. And then last year we came back for 3 months in the spring, March to May, and we had a wonderful space, and we really got to live here, shop here, see what life was like here. We already had friends from the year prior that we connected with and started to meet new people. So that 3 months, I don't think we left Porto. I
Okay.
mean, we maybe went to Matosinhos, to the coast,
Hmm.
but we never left this area because we just were living in the city and learning.
And that was another, like, just to reconfirm that you wanted to move, or you kind of already knew you wanted to move, but you just wanted to get here and experience it a bit more?
I would sense that we really had a clear sense that we wanted to be here, but the 3 months was just to confirm it.
Okay.
And why I say that is we had it in the back of our mind to be looking at properties.
Mm.
And so you don't do that if you're not thinking about living there.
Yeah.
And so we had that opportunity to really, in the first 2 months, solidify we just want to be here. And then it became about finding a property, and we made a commitment to a property, so we were coming back.
Okay. All right. So in the 3 months, you found a property,
hmm
and did you get a mortgage or did you pay cash? Like, what was that process like? And was it
So
fast or slow?
relatively fast. We had the first 2 months, we had a realtor that never showed us anything.
Okay.
Learning curve in
Happens.
Portugal. So then we had somebody that day put us into gear, hard hats, looking at properties. Maybe we saw 10, 15 properties. If we found the right place, we would move forward. When we looked at the finances and said to rent for a year or a couple of years, gee, the experience of properties improving in value was clear that it was going to happen.
Hmm.
So we made the commitment to buy if we found a place. First, then we found a place, walking distance to the bridge and everything around us, view of the monastery that sold Mark. And we bought cash. We had sold our house at some point in San Diego, and it just made sense to do that. No payments, didn't have to worry about the loan,
Hmm.
and there's no overhead on that front for us.
Okay. But then you had to go back to the States to do the visa process, right? So you
Yes.
bought, and did the purchase go through before you went back, and did you rent it out, or what did you do?
It was the very end of our trip that we signed the contract.
Okay.
And because we weren't really prepared to actually buy something and we didn't really know what was going to come, we hadn't liquidated funds yet. So it took, I think, about a month and a half to liquidate the funds.
Hmm.
So although we signed the contract in May, we didn't, I'll say, close until July. And we understood after the fact that really, once you sign the contract, the deal is done, whether
Mm.
the money is transferred or not. You learn
Yeah.
lessons as you
Yeah.
go.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay, good. So then you go back to the States and you came on the D7 visas, right?
Yes,
So you did the D7, all that's done, you're here and you're living in the place that you bought
correct.
and loving it.
We really do.
Okay.
We love this space. There's so, I mean, we have a beautiful view, but just being walkable. We have a fabulous Anthony Bourdain restaurant right downstairs.
Yeah.
We're
Uh-huh.
friends with them all. There's so many restaurants, different places to walk, which I love. It's a very healthy lifestyle. And yes, we just really, really enjoy it here. But we did make a commitment, so this is important for us,
Mm-hmm.
to not make any life-altering decisions for a year.
Okay.
That was because on the surface, we wanted to experience the different weather seasons,
Mm-hmm.
what that's like, is that comfortable? But as we're still learning a lot, we wanted to understand what the culture is like and what it's like living here.
Yeah. That's really good advice because, I mean, you're already making a big decision by moving from the US or from your home country to a different country.
Mhm.
So give it a year or so to kind of try to, get your feet wet, settle before making any other big decisions.
It's true, and for me personally, because I'm a planner, that in that process of not making any major decisions, it allowed me to do something that's important to me, which is to really just be present, notice what my life is, what I'm experiencing, the interactions I'm experiencing, and how does it feel every step along the way, without worrying about what I'm going to do next. Because
Yeah.
we're good. Mark and I are both good at looking forward. But
Okay.
this is our opportunity just to be here and have our experience and learn from that.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that then. So
Okay.
you've really jumped in and kind of built a community or at least meeting locals, different places, restaurants that you like, right?
Mhm.
And so you've met some Portuguese through that in the service industry, but then
Mhm.
also you're friends with expats too.
Yes.
Let's talk about the community that you're in.
So what I say is, in that experience, no matter what, we've all moved to a foreign country. I know you guys have done a lot of traveling, but most of the people that we live here, it's a lot of hoops to get through to get here.
Hmm.
A lot of bumps. I don't know anybody that didn't have bumps,
Yeah, of course.
but you forget about them once you're here. And for us, there were big bumps along the way.
Hmm.
Um, but number one, we realized we're here because we're committed to be here. That last year, sitting out on our back patio with a couple of friends, we go really deep, really fast with people, so you get to connect on a deeper level. And the best gift of all from that moment was realizing that the people that go through all that effort to come here are committed to make this the best chapter of their lives.
Yeah.
And I get goosebumps saying that because that's profound. That's
Mm.
exciting that these people, the couple of adventurers, you know them every day. What adventure shall we go on today?
Yeah.
I mean, that's really part of being present every day and seeing what we're called to do. So you have that element. And then there's another element that I call, it's like being in first grade. You have a 4-year-old.
Yes.
See
Yes.
ya. So being in first grade, you're meeting all these people, but
Hmm.
then you got to find your peeps.
Yeah.
The people that you connect with.
Hmm.
And for, you call it retired people, that's another conversation.
Yeah.
But we're not just looking for people that we could have fun with. People in their 60s and 70s are also looking forward. Like, okay, what will our life be like to stay here long term? We've left our friends, we've left our family, so we're looking for connection. And then we're also looking for people that, for me anyway, that have a heart connection and that people that we can genuinely trust, so that when stuff happens down the road with health or whatever, we have those kind of people. And
Yeah,
that's the
that's
tight
really
community.
important. That's
It
important
really
to,
is.
because I think some people don't think about that. You come here, you don't have maybe your close friends from the US or your family, but you need to cultivate that so you do have people that you can trust in times of need. I mean, we have to do that with our daughter, right? If something happens and we need
Sure.
someone to pick her up from school or something, we have to have people that we trust. So it goes for all ages
Sure.
and whatever lifestyle that you have, right? So you
Yes.
start building those relationships. And have you done that with Portuguese or with expats or a mix?
So we have some Portuguese friends, those that can speak some English, but Portuguese is a challenge here. It takes a while, years, for us to even start to learn simple things. It seems, because we're still on that path. Example, and it's just an example of the warmth of the people. I had a bumpy day. We've been going to the same grocery store for almost 2 years, and we met a guy there. He's married, just the nicest guy. And I was having a rough morning, and Mark had seen him at the other side of the store and mentioned that I was having a rough morning. He came all the way to the produce section to find me, comes over and says, "Bobby, I hear you're having a rough day." And he wraps his arms around me and gives me the biggest hug, and he whispers, "It's going to be okay."
How sweet.
I mean, that would never happen in the United States. It just wouldn't. And those kind of things happen regularly, where we really feel the warmth of the people.
Okay, so even though you can't maybe fully communicate, I mean, he spoke English to you, but
Yeah.
there's some that it's a little harder with the language barrier, but there's still that warmth and friendliness that translates without words.
There is. It's like you learn the word tutuben, are you okay?
Yeah.
And at some point after a year, you need something other than tutuben to go deeper in the relationship, but we're working on that.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about that. You're working a little bit on Portuguese, but you're finding it to be kind of a hard language, but you can
Yes.
still get by on your day-to-day basis with making friends with the little that you know.
We do really well. We've learned to be more confident in the few words that we have,
Okay.
which helps. And I think they feel that, and they help us. They're very good teachers, as Mark likes to say, but they help us out. But it'll take some time.
Yeah.
It'll take some time to really learn the language. I have some French in my background, but the core of it, I think the hardest part with Portuguese is hearing it. It's just a difficult one to understand. But between some English and some sign language and some Google Translate, we can really do just about everything.
Okay. Does that stress you out that you have to do all those things, that it doesn't come naturally, or you kind of just go with it and know this is how it is, so it's okay?
It's how it is. It's how we learn to function. They're usually fine with it. So yeah, we do adapt to that. The only place that we have a challenge is in business,
Okay.
because it's hard to advocate for ourselves in Portuguese because we can't. And it's hard to negotiate when circumstances come up with companies, which they have. We've had translators come in and help us.
Okay.
So we have to kind of distinguish where we really need help here. So that's the challenging part for us.
All right. So with business, it's probably better to have like a lawyer or translator or someone who can advocate for you in the language come in and assist.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I know you asked about real estate at one point in our conversation in the past. As I was a real estate, I am a real estate still in San Diego. I still see clients. But with that knowledge, I know the importance of having somebody advocate for you in the United States where I'm from. But here I sometimes hear people say, "Oh, I'm going to go buy a property or rent a property without a real estate agent." And I really plead with them to consider you want to have a real estate agent and an attorney. Our attorney has been awesome, and he has saved us from a lot of potential headaches and probably thousands of dollars. You want to have that kind of team. You're in a foreign country.
Yeah.
Realize they do things differently, and we still are learning what that means.
Yeah. Okay, good. So have people that can advocate for you.
Yeah.
And then speaking about that, let's shift from housing and real estate. What about in the medical industry? At like, doctors, dentists, do you need someone to advocate for you there, or do they mainly speak English, or how's the medical been?
So the medical has been phenomenal.
Okay.
I'll start with that. And I'm not one with a medical background, meaning my parents didn't like doctors, so I went to chiropractors my whole life. But my partner was raised with the medical field, so it was important to him. And so as far as when we needed help, especially at the beginning, if it's okay to say, we used concierge service.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, Serenity Concierge Service
Yeah.
is extraordinary. They have been there in so many ways that we could never have done, navigating us through what doctors to see, how to explain what's important to us, and they showed up every time. They're amazing. Outside of that, again, you're talking about retired people or people in our age bracket. We come here and we have to do our medical baselines. We did a lot of medical. I volunteered last year to do the emergency room. It was important to Mark, so I thought, let me do my part. I went there and was seen in 5 minutes.
Okay.
I am very low tolerance to medication, so I take smaller than childhood doses. They stayed with me for 2 hours. It was a back thing that I have. They gave me muscle relaxers, anti-inflammatory, and some pain medication. And at that point, 2 hours later, I could walk out. I paid 250 euros, which is about $270,
Hmm.
which was then reimbursed with our insurance that we had.
Okay.
And the 3 medications that I got were about, I think it was $12 for 3 medications.
Oh gosh. Yeah, that's
So
crazy.
when you look at the healthcare, absolutely the cost for, we have free healthcare here and we have private healthcare.
Hmm.
The private healthcare cost us $300 a month
Okay.
for two, or euros for two of us,
Okay.
which
For
you
that
again,
insurance
yeah,
to access the private. So you have stuff set up so you're in the public as well. So you
yes,
can access the public, but then you
yes.
also have the private. So you kind of use both depending on the situation.
We've only used the private right now,
Oh,
and
okay.
we have been there a lot,
Okay.
and it's rarely that we even wait 10 minutes.
Okay.
And the bigger story in the healthcare, and I've had MRIs, and Mark's had medications he couldn't tolerate but needed, and they volunteered to say, because of your reactions, if this isn't going to work, we will put you in the hospital for 10 days while you're taking the medication to make sure you're okay.
Wow.
I don't think you'd ever hear that in the United States.
Yeah.
So here, simply put, in Portugal, they put the care in healthcare.
Okay.
They really do.
Hmm.
It's not about insurance. It's not about money. And they show that by example.
Okay. Well, that's really good to know. Did you choose Porto because of the hospitals or anything here, or it just happened that you have found good hospitals that you like?
Well, going to the emergency room, that was helpful.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to really, Mark was really clear. He wanted to understand the healthcare system. So we did.
Yeah.
And
So that was before you moved. Like that was that when you were
yes,
here for the 3 months?
that was when
Yeah.
we were here for the 3 months.
Okay, so you're still
Correct.
kind of scouting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that helped.
Did you have then when you were on that scouting trip, did you already have the private insurance that they took here, or like just the process of
No,
that?
the 3 months, you'll have to fact check this with my partner,
Hmm.
but my understanding is we had, I believe it's Geo Blue,
Okay.
and it was an insurance that basically covered everything while we're here. So for example, when I ended up in the ER, we had scheduled a trip to Lisbon. We had a train and a hotel that we had reserved and paid for, and the insurance company paid for those as well,
Wow.
beyond
Okay.
the medical, which was huge
That is huge.
because I had to
Okay.
cancel the trip.
Yeah. Okay. So if someone's coming on a scouting, maybe
Mm.
getting this type of insurance would be good because you can get things reimbursed. And then once you're here, you have private insurance that you can get to assist with the daily things. Yeah.
Yes, and then the local insurance, I know that I watch them on the computer for days at a time, trying to scan and submit things, and they reject it. And it's insurance like we're used to, but it's really difficult here,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
that is a challenge.
Yeah, that's good to know.
It's not all rainbows.
Yeah, it does come with its challenges for
Uh-huh.
sure. Okay, and that's also good to know that you weren't actually residents here, but you were seen at a hospital and taken care of at a hospital, even though you hadn't finalized your residency when you had the emergency situation.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, good. So let's talk about Porto a little bit. You chose it. You like the people. What were some other things that drew you to the city?
I love cities, like I said, and being able to walk here
Mm.
and walk around everywhere, and the gardens. I'm a garden person.
Hmm.
Where we came from, they have parks but not gardens, and they take their gardening very seriously here. Every month there's a different flower, and all the beds in the gardens around town are changed, and there's gardens overlooking the river. It's wonderful when there's company visiting. There's so many things to do. We still haven't gone all the way down the Douro River to go to the vineyards and
Hmm.
the places that there are to explore there. Is just something different every day to go to. You can be at the beach. We have along the beach some wonderful restaurants right on the river. So the food is really wonderful here. And the cost of living,
Mm.
you can't not, comparing to where we are, is such a fraction. Mark's always been on a fixed income. I've been self-employed. So when you talk about retired, I don't view as retired because I've been self-employed, and there is a difference
Hmm.
because he needs a break from his lifetime of service as a school teacher. Uh, for me, I've been self-employed, so I'm always going to be creative. That's not going to end. I don't know what's going to be next. It's part of that being present and see what I'm drawn to.
Yeah.
But the cost of living around that is just, he doesn't have to think about paying money for anything. Where there's always, watching the budget.
Yeah.
Certainly in California, it's much freer here and a much more enjoyable life.
Okay, so he's on a fixed income, and you can budget accordingly and still have a very lovely life. What kinds of things do you do that entails this fixed budget?
We don't pay attention to it. That's
Okay.
the good news is we've never been overspenders on anything, but we just went back to the East Coast to visit Mark's family in Connecticut, stopped in New York because we were flying out of there. I love the cities. I lived there, so I love New York City. And of course, we came back. We had a transfer in France. If you're going to go through Paris, you're going to stop in Paris. I love that city. And then we came back here, and next week we're going into Italy to eat for 2 weeks. And then at the end of November, we're going to Vigo, Spain, which is supposed to be known for their Christmas decorations. I mean, you have Europe right here. That was the attraction for me. You can very easily get around Europe.
Yeah, easily, and it's affordable. So even if you are on a fixed income where you have to watch, where your money's going, you can still travel like this.
It's true. It's true.
Well, we did some scouting, and then you've moved here, and you've been here for almost a year, right?
Correct.
This time. So how have you changed and grown in this year, maybe differently than if you were back in San Diego?
Sure. Well, being a great planner, and we're really good at creating a plan and getting the results we anticipated, that went out the window so many times.
Okay.
And so we went through the process of, well, what is the lesson here? Mark liked asking that, which I'm happy to look at. And really realizing that we're completely changing our lives and to let go of our expectations, which is an ongoing exercise because most times our plan didn't work, but what we ended up getting was better than our plan.
Okay.
And knowing that, it makes it easier to surrender. So we get better at surrendering, and that just makes it an easier lifestyle.
Happier, right?
It is, because less stress, because we got stressed. When they canceled our flight out here with all our bags and the movers the day before we left to go to Europe canceled, and the stuff that life happens, we learned, well, this is not what's happening now, and let's just relax into it and see where life is taking us instead of where we're forcing it to go. Which is a life exercise in being more present for ourselves.
Right. Yeah. You talked about that earlier, just like living in the present, not planning what's happening in a year or what we want to do or evaluating. Like you evaluate later on, like kind of living your life. Okay, good. Well, at Expats Everywhere, we believe that living abroad transforms life. So how has living in Portugal transformed your life?
There's a lot more adventure, which I like. I lived in a car before, not living in a car, but that's all you did is drive everywhere. To be able to walk everywhere, it's healthier. Learning a language is good for our brains. That's important to us. There's one word that I picked up this year that really made a big difference, because sometimes it's easy to get bogged down by the to-dos of life. Oh, I have to go do this. I have to go to the store. I have to, whatever the have to is. I learned it from Steve Guttenberg. He's an actor. He removed the word have to and he put the word get to.
Yeah.
I get to go for a walk. I get to go exercise. I get to go shopping. And that simple transformation is something that I take with me on this ride. I get to be in Europe. We pinch ourselves all the time. I get to be in this community where people are so caring and we can connect with on a deep level, and we love that.
Great. Well, thank you, Bobby. And if you want to see me speak with Bobby's partner, Mark, on our podcast, then check out this video right here. And more about Portugal will be right here. Now, let's get moving.